Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. Slight break for the weekend, getting play in our local monthly tournament. And today's detachment, which is the Necrons Starshatter Arsenal, was actually played at our event. Two of the new detachments were the Thousand Suns one and this one. So I will speak about that. I didn't actually get to face it, I'll point out, but I did get to watch pieces of some of the games. But I'll talk about that towards the end. So the Starshatter Arsenal detachment is a detachment that focuses on primarily Necron vehicles and mounted like Tomb Blades. It's a bit different in a way. I didn't expect this to be the sort of detachment they would release for Necrons, but there's no complaints about that. So I'm just going to jump in with the first little bit, which is the detachment rule, which is Relentless Onslaught, which is every time a Necrons model from your army makes an attack that targets a unit within range of one or more objectives, you add 1 to the hit roll. That's quite nice. In addition, ranged weapons equipped by vehicles and mounted, excluding Titanics, have the assault ability, so your vehicles can run across the table and keep shooting. Think about that with your big doom stalkers and what have you. One thing that annoys me with this detachment, I'm just going to mention now, is throughout the entirety of this detachment, when it talks about Necron vehicles or units, it keeps adding in brackets, excluding Titanics. Two things with that. One, they only have one Titanic unit, as I recall, which is, and I can never remember the name of it, which is like a giant Necron spider knight looking thing. So I don't really see why this has to come up. Secondly, why can't that benefit from it? That makes no sense, you know. Anyway, so this is your mechanic for this. You can still use your infantry and your various options. I see a lot of Necron players saying, well, it means this could be the detachment when nobody bothers with Citan. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. The Nightbringer, for example, is too good not to bring in a detachment most of the time, but maybe smaller point games, you're not going to see it. The other thing with this, which I'm not sure they considered, and I see a lot of people, Necron players, mentioning, simply put, is the mechanics of this detachment are based around Necron vehicles. What's a Necron vehicle? The Silent King. That's right. The big boy on his big metal throne with his giant floating menhir obelisk cannon things has the vehicle keyword. He benefits from all of this. So really, he's going to be an auto-include, I think, in most with most armies built for this detachment. And yes, the player on Saturday who brought this detachment did bring the Silent King as his big bad. But as a mechanic, as a detachment rule, I think this is quite good. There's no complaints whatsoever. It's a little bit interesting to have vehicles get the assault, though, because sometimes you don't necessarily want all these things driving up the board. But hey-ho. For enhancements, you have Dread Majesty for 30 points for an Overlord or Catacomb Command Barge model, while friendly Necron units, excluding Titanic units, I'm not going to mention this every time it comes up, but it's pretty much on everything, is within 6 inches of the bearer. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, a re-roll a hit roll of 1 and re-roll a wound roll of 1. 30 points, not bad, especially when you're getting the +1 boost from the detachment rule itself. Nice. Miniaturized Nebula Scope for 15 points. Ranged weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit have the Ignores cover ability. Again, not bad. An odd one, though, it says this is a Necrons model only. Well, to my knowledge, you can't field anything but a Necrons character in the Necrons army. So, Citan aren't characters. They're not epic heroes. Okay. Just typical wording, I suppose. Demanding Leader for 10 points. Necron model only. In your movement phase, select one friendly Necron vehicle or mounted, excluding Titanics, within 6 of the bearer until the start of your next command phase. That unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. So a slightly different, weaker tactical doctrine. but it's nice that you can get these things to pull back, still shoot. No complaints. And lastly, chrono impedance fields, 25 points. Necron Maloney, in your command phase, select one friendly Necron's vehicle or mounted unit within 6 inches of the bearer until the start of your next command phase. Each time an attack is allocated to a model in that unit, subtract 1 from the damage characteristics of the attack. That's quite nice. It's basically the same ability as a Redempted Dreadnought. So, so far, no issues. It seems quite a good detachment. Stratagems. Let's go through these. I actually find these to be reasonably generic. I was expecting these to be a little bit nastier, a bit stronger, however you want to word it. But let's take a look. Merciless Reclamation. In your shooting or fight phase, one Necron unit Titanics from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit makes an attack, if the target of that attack is in range of one or more objectives, add 1 to the wound roll. Again, quite nice. And because it's a Necrons unit and not just a vehicle, it means that even when you take your warriors or whatever, they get this benefit. Nice. Unyielding Forms. In your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just after an enemy unit has been selected, you target one Necron vehicle or Necron's mounted unit from your army that was selected as a target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets a model in your unit, if the strength characteristic of that attack is greater than the toughness characteristic, subtract 1 from the wound roll. Again, a nice way of keeping those vehicles alive. Chrono Shift. In your movement phase, one Necron's vehicle or Necron's mounted from your army that has not been selected to move. Instead, you don't roll an advanced dice, you just go, it gets 6. So again, you need that unit on that detachment, on that objective, or you need to get it into a good firing line because everything's got, all the vehicles and mounted have assault. Brilliant, excellent. Dimensional Tunnel. In your movement phase, one Necron vehicle or mounted, Titanics, until the end of the phase, models in your unit can move horizontally through models and terrain features. Now, when I first read this, I will admit I had that knee-jerk reaction of going, it's far too good. But then Chaos Knights have a similar thing, and quite frankly, sometimes with table layouts, you kind of really want this, especially if you are fielding a vehicle-heavy army. So really, it was just a knee-jerk reaction, and it was... it is actually quite reasonable. It's only 1 per turn, so it's not going to be a whole army suddenly pouring its way through your ruins and what's the word? Impassable terrain and things like that. So actually, yes. Endless Servitude. End of the fight phase, one Necron unit from your army within range of one or more objective markers. Reanimation protocols is active. Fair enough. That's what the army does. And lastly, reactive reposition. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit is shot, one Necron unit from your army that was a target of one or more of the attacks can make a normal move of up to D6 or 6 inches specific if it's a mounted or vehicle unit. Okay, again, it's no different than in a lot of detachments. In fact, one of the things that I have seen people mentioning online about stratagems in these Grotmas detachments is that they seem to basically just be copy pasting with a slight tweak. There are quite a few that are fairly similar to already existing ones. There isn't a lot of particularly unique, and this is a primary example of that. There are a few armies that already have this particular type of stratagem in their detachments. Okay, so that is the detachment for I've forgotten the name now I'm standing here, Starshatter Arsenal. Okay. The Necron army is already really, really powerful. In the hands of a player who knows what they're doing, it's awesome sauce. And all of the detachments are, bar probably the Annihilation Legion, which is the one I tend to see these days, people sort of grumbling about, are really, really strong. In fact, speaking of the Annihilation Legion, I see a lot of commenters saying that this is actually better for destroyers than the Annihilation Legion. And I can see where they're coming from in that, because some of those are mounted, the locust destroyers and things like that. It's a very strong. I purposely by itself, I don't think it's a particularly strong detachment, but when combined with the Necron rules, it makes it really, 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 really good. And that's the problem. It's not the detachment itself. It's certainly one of the better ones, more interesting ones, but the army itself makes this really, really strong. Necrons are, I know some people go, well, actually, they're not doing that great on the percentages. They are a really good army. Don't, you know. So, yes. So one of my friends brought this detachment to our tournament, 8 players, 3 rounds, 2,000 points. I didn't face him. In a way, I'm glad. He did bring the Silent King, like I mentioned earlier, and a load of vehicles and things. And he's the only player on the day who went 3-0. He won every single game. I can't remember the scores, but he did really, really well. And I think this out of today is the 9th of December. So out of all of the detachments we have thus far, including the 2 that dropped today, which was Imperial and Chaos Knights, I think this is one that you are going to see used a lot. I think there are going to be tournaments where this pops up. So, you know, I think they've done a really nice job with the detachment. No complaints really with it whatsoever. I had that really big initial, but actually I do think it's strong, coupled with the rules of the army, and I think it's going to be very, very popular. So let me know what you think. If you're a Necron player, what are your thoughts? If you play against Necrons, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a good detachment or not? Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see what people think. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you shortly in the next video when we look at the next detachment and rules that have dropped during Grotmas. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care. Good gaming.